Welcome, everybody. We are going to wait a few minutes until everybody's been allowed into the meeting. Just to let you know, this meeting is being video recorded and will be available on our website a little while after it is over and gives us time to edit it. And we will give you that website address if you don't already know. It's www.eye.uci.edu. And we'll put that up on the group chat. And we'll be starting in just a moment as soon as a few more people enter the room.
Oh, is that water for me or is that you? Awesome.
All right, everyone, I'll get started now. Welcome to the Gavin Herbert Eye Institute Community Lecture Series. Tonight, we're talking about the annual eye exam, eye evolution, the future of vision care. We have two speakers tonight. The first one is Patrisha Elbeck, who is the manager of the optical shop at the Gavin Herbert Eye Institute. And the second speaker tonight is Marcial Torrez Jiminez, who's a strategic accounts manager for Essilor of America. So we will take questions all at the end of the lecture. Feel free to post your questions in the chat. We'll get to them at the end and we can unmute you at the end also to ask questions verbally. So we'll take it away, Patrisha. Let's unmute Patrisha.
Okay, there we go. We were muted here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Hi, good evening. So I am the optical shop manager at the Gavin Herbert Eye Institute. So some of you may have been familiar with us, and I've probably helped a couple of you.
What did you do? You have to connect to the audio.
That's new. Can you find anything?
Just quickly, if you could all put yourselves on mute so that we don't get any background interference, and we'll unmute you at the end when it comes time for questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Am I unmuted now? Okay. Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. Again, I'm the optical shop manager at the Gavin Herbert Eye Institute. So some of you guys have been probably patients of ours, and if you're not, you're welcome to come in and get to know us. Today, we're going to talk about annual eye exams and the differences between an optometrist, an ophthalmologist, and an optician. I am a certified registered optician with the state of California. I'm also certified with the national boards. So let's start with talking about annual eye exams. This is not, oops, sorry. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. So first of all, I want to talk about the importance of different eye exams, and then we're going to later on talk about a little bit about the new COVID protocols that are happening in different eye practices. So as far as annual eye exams and the importance of annual eye exams, it's really important to start off when kids are generally at a younger age. Not many people understand the importance of infant exams. So infancy is a program that is national. It also helps parents understand the importance of basically having children's prescriptions or getting their health care for their eyes checked. So infancy was developed by the American Optometric Association and Johnson & Johnson Vision. It is a free program. not many people know, or not many people understand that during the well-checked baby checks that infants go through, parents are able to see an ophthalmologist or an optometrist to get their child's vision needs. So what infancy does is it allows you to kind of combine that well visit check to make sure that your child is developing in the way that they should for their eye and their vision care. Most pediatric doctors will only check vision for children for movement, shadowing, things like that. They don't really go deep inside to see if there's anything that's going on with the eyes. And usually that doesn't happen until later on when they're starting to develop their social skills. When they start to not react in the social environment, that's when then they'll start going into seeing an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. Or when children's eyes start to move or not do certain things, like their eye imbalances will start to move towards, if they're stressed, if they're sick, what happens is the muscles will start to relax. And so they'll have some movement either going inwards or outwards. So these are things that an ophthalmologist would be seeing for. This is what we call a strabismus condition. So sometimes you can train an eye to move because the development of the brain will allow the vision to be clearer if it's functioning right. So if it's not, you'll start to hear things like patching. Some ophthalmologists will patch the good eye in order for the bad eye to catch up, and so that the brain can develop in its optical nerves in a fast and convenient way. So this is a program that is free. Not many people understand or know about it, but if you talk to your pediatric doctor, they'll be able to refer you to a clinic that will be able to help with those situations. So 1 out of every 4 children has a vision problem. And that's important that most parents talk to the schools, develop a relationship with the nurses to find out what's going on. An annual exam is not required to be in school or to be done prior to entering school. Unlike there are some programs, some dental programs that are out, we are hoping the Board of Opticianry, or not the Board of Opticianry, I'm sorry, the California Optometry Board is actually looking to push for some legislation so that the vision is part of that school introduction, going back into school, not only getting your dental check, but also getting the vision check, because that's really important. A lot of people don't understand that some behavioral problems are due to having vision issues. There's also issues with being able to socialize. So you'll have a child that's really quiet, or you'll have a child that's really expressive. Those two types of activities really have an effect on how their school participation occurs. So always look towards getting an annual visit. The schools are funded to have an annual eye exam, usually within the first 3 years. The school nurses will do some type of corrective screening. So then as the child develops, you're going to get into more of the teenage years. You're going to get into driving. You're going to get into having a new job. Having a new job sometimes requires being able to see well. So you're going to see new technology coming. And a lot of the things that we're going through right now has an effect on people's vision. Being next to a computer screen, looking at the phone. We've been seeing a lot of development in eye conditions happening at a younger age, more so than we did in the past, where usually about 39, 40-ish is where you start to have that focal length issue, reading anything up close. But now with the onset of cell phones, computers, the focal length is getting a little bit closer. And unfortunately, having your eyes be fixated at a certain length for a long period of time kind of has an effect on your distance vision, because your lens of the eye is not fluctuating as much. So it becomes stiff, and the longer time between being able to focus from distance to near has become a struggle for most people. So we will, in our next presentation, Marcial will talk about the different types of lenses that will actually help with those situations. So let's talk about senior care. Okay, you've gotten older, your body's changed, your eyes will change just as well. And if you're a patient that's been wearing contact lenses from early on, sometimes don't really understand the importance of having an eye exam done yearly, because they feel like, well, I've had the same contact lenses for the last, 30, 40 years. I don't see the need to change or have my vision checked. That is not the case. Things happen behind the eye that you don't necessarily see. You don't see it on, there's effects that happen that are not right away very, they don't grab your attention as far as, you don't just kind of wake up and, oh, I can't see. It happens gradually over time. And there's a lot of conditions that actually have no symptoms that can all of a sudden, there can be an onset, and then it's a little too late to do any kind of preemptive help, to get those situations or get those conditions taken care of. So the importance of the annual eye exam are throughout your life. It becomes much more important as you age, of course. We all know that when 40 hits, the focal length gets a little shorter. That's when you start with a condition called presbyopia. A presbyopia is basically the fact that your lens in the back of the cornea is not flexing as easily as it used to. So your lag time between going from distance to reading, and everybody has that person who says, hey, mom, look at this. And they throw a paper in front of you and you're just like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. That's a little too close. My eyes are not focusing as clearly as they used to. Well, that's because the lens isn't as flexible as it used to be. So you kind of need help with that. Then you'll start getting introduced to things like progressive lenses, bifocals. Those are lined. Bifocals have basically multifocal lenses that can give you a distance and a reading prescription, as well as the trifocals, which give you that intermediate area. Progressive lenses basically are a distance to intermediate to reading, but there's a whole bunch of focal points in between. They're easily to get confused as far as going from a progressive to a line bifocal, or just saying a multifocal. So your optician should be able to understand what your activities are and determine for you which kind of lens would be more suitable for those types of activities. Some people do very well with a line bifocal. That is just basically distance and reading. There is an image jump, but nowadays most people like to have progressive lenses, which basically give you a seamless transition from distance to reading. They're a little bit harder to get used to. Your optician would definitely be somebody who you'd want to sit down with and talk to after your exam and go over all of the different functions of those types of lenses. You also have glaucoma, macular degeneration, cataracts. Once we don't think about cataracts, but long-term exposure to ultraviolet is a condition that causes cataracts. So if you're not actively wearing sunglasses from early on until you get a little bit older, you may develop cataracts. Cataracts can start off very minimally, and it kind of is like looking through a dirty window. Your vision starts to get a little bit fuzzy, and sometimes you think, well, maybe I just need an upgrade in my prescription. Maybe I need a stronger lens. Well, you can get a stronger lens, but that haziness is always going to be there because that lens is starting to get coated. And with that coating, you can't just take it away. So eventually what you'll hear is the doctor says, well, your cataract will get to a certain point and then we'll have a cataract removed. What they like to do is they like to do both eyes. So they kind of wait for one to develop more so than the other. What they do is they will take out the crystalline lens, replace it with the interocular lens. But you'll still need reading glasses at the end because that lens is being changed and that lens will not flex. So you won't be able to adapt to that reading focal length as you normally would. So even with cataracts surgery, you still need reading glasses in order to kind of do some of the work that you may do if you do up close work. So with cataracts, you want to make sure that you're starting at an early age, start wearing those sunglasses, make sure you get that UV protection on those lenses. Then you have diabetic retinopathy. Now, diabetes has been a real challenge and a condition that has really kind of developed massively in our just in everyday people. We're seeing more of an onset of diabetes, and especially now with the COVID coming on, because a lot of people aren't really going out and exercising as much. Their eating habits have changed. You're home a little bit more, you're snacking a little bit more. So diabetes has kind of been something that's just kind of flourished over the years. So with diabetic retinopathy, you don't really see the changes of that. It's really important if you have been diagnosed as a diabetic, even diabetic 2s and 1s, it's real important to have that annual eye exam, because you want to make sure that the lenses or the blood vessels in your eyes are not breaking, they're not leaking, because that can really lead to blindness. And you don't really see it and you don't really feel it. It's something that you really have to have checked. So it's important that even though you figure, well, going to an annual exam, I'm just going to need a new prescription. That's really not what an annual exam does. An annual comprehensive exam is going to check everything. It's going to check your pressures. It's going to check to make sure that there's no leaking blood vessels, and just if there's anything going on in the back of the eye that you wouldn't normally see. So another thing that has developed over the years that has been more predominant is dry eye. You'll see a lot of commercials with different kind of medications for dry eye. You'll have your doctor talk to you about using different techniques for dry eye, like Bruder masks, which the optical shop does carry. Basically, Bruder masks are hot compresses is what it is. You put it in the microwave, you put it on your eyes, and you're being able to kind of move and get that liquid moving in the glands there. So then that way the oils are secrete and you're having a little bit more comfortable time with your eyes. So dry eyes is something that's really important to kind of keep an eye on, and it's really important to kind of keep, just making sure that you're not developing anything more severe, especially if you wear contact lenses. Contact lenses and dry eye, they're not a good match, but you can still, there are a lot of contacts out there that have a lot of extra moisture to them, so they're a little bit more comfortable. Again, you may not, even though you've been wearing the same contact prescription for years, you have to go in and have it rechecked every year just to make sure that what you're wearing is not doing any damage that can happen for long-term damage to the eye. So again, presbyopia, hitting that 40, not being able to see clearly up close, but struggling with that computer. Those are things that will kind of force people into going and getting an exam, getting a prescription done, but it is also important just to also check the health of the eye. So glaucoma is a pressure issue that happens with the eye. It is something that is an onset that can happen immediately. It can happen over time. You'll talk to your ophthalmologist, and even your optometrist can do different things they can check your pressures. Sometimes if it gets up or into more severe levels of pressure, you'll have to go in and have pressure checks every week. So it's really important, because that can lead to an onset of blindness immediately if it gets out of hand. Macular degeneration is a common eye disorder. Most people over 65 develop some type of macular degeneration. One of the things that the doctors do recommend for patients that are struggling with macular is they will start to recommend lenses that are colored lenses. A brown lens helps with shadowing, because you start to lose that color enhancements when you're seeing your colors. So browns will actually allow you to see your reds, your yellows, your blues, your greens in a more kind of vibrant way. And we talked a little bit about cataracts. It's important, even if it's a very, sometimes your doctors will say, oh, well, you're developing a cataract. Well, that's not a major thing, but it's not there's nothing that can be reversed on that. So you definitely have to keep track on it and kind of make sure that, you're having the proper checks to see how it's properly developing. Because the cataract, even if it's just slight, the doctor won't really recommend surgery until, I mean, it's got to be what they consider ripe. They'll say, you'll start to hear, well, your cataract's ripe and it's ready for surgery. So once you start to hear that, then again, you just got to start prepping that, you know, okay, I'm going to have surgery. I'm going to have this lens. Still not going to take away from glasses. It's just going to kind of reverse and where you're going to have more of a reading prescription. And then we talked about the diabetic retinopathy, having that checked. That's important. So all of these things happen in your annual exams. The doctor will check for all of these different things, regardless of whether how old you are or how young you are. And you think, well, that's never going to happen. Well, you know, things are happening, you know, with the covering of the masks. I hear a lot of doctors talk about the different things that are happening, because now when you're breathing through a mask, you're actually kind of breathing into the eye. And so there's been a lot of issues with conjunctivitis that a lot of the doctors have been kind of buzzing around, that they're seeing more cases. So things like that, you just never know what's happening in the back of the eye. And that's why it's important to always be seen. Now, Medicare and Medicaid will cover most people for a comprehensive check. Okay. It does not cover for refraction. So even if you go to an ophthalmologist, they can do all of the health checks, your pressures, the seeing what's going on in the back of the eye. Those are all covered under basic Medicare coverages. You may not walk out with a prescription. You may be referred to, like with us at Gavin Herbert, we actually get ophthalmologists referring to optometrists. With the optometrists, unfortunately, refractions are not covered under the Medicare or Medicaid coverage. So there is some out-of-pocket cost to that. You would want to kind of check around, see what your local providers are offering for just a refraction only, because you've already had your comprehensive, and that can be billed towards your medical insurance. Okay, so what's the difference between an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, and an optician? Ophthalmologists generally deal with surgeries. They correct vision impairments with surgeries, versus an optometrist who corrects vision issues or conditions with spectacles or contact lenses, with actual equipment. So an ophthalmologist will mostly correct with surgeries. Optometrists mostly correct with medical devices such as eyewear, contact lenses. Now, an optician, we're part of that. As an optician, we're actually what we consider the pharmacists of the three. We actually are studied, we study the lens technology, we study the frames. We basically give you the recommendations based off of your prescription of what's good for you, the lifestyle that you're leading, the activities you do, your hobbies. These things are things that we take into consideration when we're prescribed or when we're making glasses for you. So that's basically what an optician does. We kind of help you and guide you along the way. So making sure that you're getting the best technology that is offered that would help specifically for you. Okay, so what makes the difference between going to a private practice versus going into ordering online? Online has been very, very popular. You go on, you buy your $20 pair of glasses. You know, is there anything different between going there and going to a practitioner? There is. The quality is definitely different. The expertise is definitely different. You know, you're able to go into a private practice, establish a relationship. We understand what your needs are directly. You know, we're always available. And then there's some things that with your eye equipment, your eyeglasses or contact lenses that, you know, if you buy them online, you may need to go in for an adjustment, or they may not fit correctly, or you may not even be wearing them correctly because of an ill-fitted pair of glasses. That's what we do as a private practitioner. We're there for you. We, you know, will help you in selection. We kind of gear you towards, you know, when you're online, you're kind of maneuvering on your own. There's not a lot of guidance there. So, you know, I understand that sometimes financially it's better But it doesn't outweigh the cost, or it doesn't outweigh the importance of having a good quality pair of eyeglasses, and having that open communication with an actual live person that can help you and guide you. So there are different options out there. There's not saying you can't use many of them, but just keep in mind that going into a private practice or a private practitioner kind of opens up a little bit more offerings and expertise. Okay, so again, cost, you're going to be paying a little bit more in a private practice, but you can also utilize your insurance a little bit more. Some of the places, such as Costco and online retailers, will say that they are part of your or take your vision care coverage, but what they're really not telling you is that they're really considered out of network. So you may not be getting the full benefit of your glasses benefits going through an online retailer or a Costco, because they really are considered out of network. So you kind of want to make sure that you kind of understand the differences between in-network and out-of-network, and what your benefit coverage is best for you. So let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 and what's going on. Should you seek care? Should you, everybody's been in lockdown for the last year or so. We're kind of confused, like, are they open? Are they not open? Are they seeing patients? Are they not seeing patients? Is there something that I need to go into and see a practitioner in person? There are some situations. There are some situations where you're actually able to do a telemedicine, where you can actually talk to the doctor and kind of get a little bit of a history, so that the doctor kind of knows, well, is this something that I need to see in person, or is this something that we can kind of do over the video conference? Well, it just depends. If you obviously are having pain, if you're seeing flashes of light, those things are important. Those things you would triage into seeing a practitioner. But is it safe? We haven't been able to go out. I know that most optometrists have been taking patients throughout the COVID. I know at Gavin Herbert Eye Institute, the optical shop had not closed. We have been open throughout the entire COVID time of people not being able to be opened. We are considered essential. There are patients that needed their glasses. There are patients that needed their contact lenses. Contact lenses is a little tricky, because there was patients that wanted to start wearing contacts, but they didn't want to come in, and we weren't really allowing to do any trainings because those were really hands-on. So new contact lenses generally had to wait until after most of the mandates had gotten lifted to allow patients to come in. As far as glasses go, you should always have a pair of backup glasses. You never know, even for the slightest inconvenience of not having anything, you should always have a backup pair, just in case anything like this happens again, and then you're stuck with not having any type of backup. So 1 or 2 pairs of backup is very important to have, because when you don't have it, you really struggle, and you understand what it is not to have good eyesight. So you'll notice some changes when you go into an office nowadays. As far as with the COVID, you're going to notice that there's going to be some offices that only allow patients to come in one at a time. We have started checking the temperatures. We're making sure everything's clean. At our optical shop, we actually have a UV box. So after a patient takes or tests glasses off of our board, we have them put it into a tray. We don't let the patients put the glasses back onto the board. We actually have them put them into a tray. And then after they're done doing their selection, we put the remaining glasses into a box, and then we put it into a UV box so that it kills any of the germs that are out there. And then we will clean them and then put them back on the board. So those are things that you're going to see change. You're going to see changes in being able to pick up the glasses, the delivery of glasses. Generally when you're able to just come in and, hey, I'm here to pick up my glasses, those days are kind of a little bit out there or not there anymore. So it's always nice to kind of call ahead to let us know that, hey, I'm going to come in about 5:30 or 6 o'clock to pick up my glasses. That way we know what the flow is of the people. We can say, hey, we have so many people in at that time, or that's really a busy time for us. Maybe this time would be more convenient for you. So just never feel that you can't reach out to any of your private practices and just kind of give them like, hey, you know, I know my glasses are in. Is this a good time for me to come in? If not, is there a more convenient time? So communication is really important during this time. So again, you're going to see a lot of changes. You're going to see changes in follow-up questions or questions regarding your history, questions in regard to your exposure. You'll see, again, temperature checks, hand cleaning, things like that. So those are all different. Those are the way that the flow of patients coming into an office, those are all going to be changing. So hopefully we'll get into a little bit more of a casual ease up on these things. But for the time being, I think it just makes people more comfortable knowing that these protocols are in place. Okay, so talking a little bit about how the coronavirus affects your eyes. Well, it spreads, it can be spread through the eyes. So wearing your masks, making sure that you're not standing too close. The most important thing is making sure that your hands are clean. You never know how many times you actually touch your eyes or rub. So you want to always make sure that your hands are clean, because you can actually kind of spread, because you know the eyes are an open area too. Okay, so here's some things that you want to do to protect yourself. If you wear contact lenses, consider switching to glasses or having a backup pair. Give your eyes a rest. Make sure that you know you're kind of not allowing your eyes to get over fatigued by wearing contact lenses. So you want to give them a break. You want to also want to make sure that when you're wearing glasses, that if you're going to be in an exposed area, you know, even with work, you want to maybe get a pair of safety glasses, something that, you know, if you know that you're going to be around a lot of people or you can be exposed, safety protection of the eyes is important. You also want to stock up on your eye medicine. If you have some past history of having dry eye or anything like that, you want to make sure that you have a good stock, because if you're not allowed to go into, or if you don't feel comfortable going into your practitioner's office, you want to have these things stocked up. Avoid rubbing your eyes. We talked about that. And practicing good hygiene and social distancing. Okay. So annual eye exams are a lot more than just getting a prescription. Of course, you know, it's about making sure that the health of your eyes are being continually monitored. The older we get, the most it's really important. So again, get those pressures checked, get the back of the eye checked, get your prescription updated, because you know you can not get glasses for a couple of years. And I have patients that are like, oh, it's been about 5 years since I've gotten glasses or gotten new glasses. I can still see, but not as clearly. And then they get a new pair of glasses and like, wow, the difference is amazing. I can't believe I went so long without seeing, because your eyes will accommodate for not seeing well. So it's really important. And you don't want to do that, because you're going to start getting headaches. You're going to notice that at the end of the night, your eyes are going to start to get fatigued. That's, you know, those are things that are preventable. You definitely can, when you get a new pair of glasses and you're seeing correctly, your eyes don't have to work as hard. Okay, so I am going to actually turn this over, and Marcial will be talking about lens designs.
Sorry, bear with me for one moment. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna try to stand in a better position for the light, but I'm just gonna be talking to you really quickly about new lens technology. When we want to talk to you today about new lens technology, the reason it's important is because depending on where you're going, depending on where you're getting your lenses, it may not be taken into account the actual needs of the modern visual environment. So one of the things that I like to talk about, that I really like to focus on when I always talk about my lenses is 20 feet and why 20 feet is important to anybody really who's buying glasses. At the end of the day, when we measure 20 feet, we measure our optical infinity. And what that means is that for our purposes, we can't really see past 20 feet. That's the maximum distance we should see clearly. So when a doctor measures you and gives you a prescription, they're either giving you a prescription for 20 feet, which is your distance prescription, or they're giving you a prescription for about 2 feet, which is your reading prescription. And there's really no in between. If you get a progressive lens or a bifocal lens, you end up getting a lens that's designed for 20 feet at the top and then 2 feet at the bottom. So again, there's really no in between. And this starts to become important when we understand how far 20 feet is and the kinds of things that we do at a 20-foot viewing distance. So these are just some examples, but as you can see that we really have to dig to find examples of things that we do at a 20-foot viewing distance. During our normal day, if we're at a desk, if we're in our own home, if we're in an office, we're probably not going to be utilizing that 20-foot viewing distance. And this really starts to become important when we think about, again, what the visual needs are in the modern visual environment. So one thing to keep in mind is that the idea of creating a lens that's designed for 20 feet is almost 100 years old. And there's a lot of things that are equally as old, and we don't use those things anymore. And we don't use those things for good reason. There's better stuff out there. There's better technology out there that can serve our needs and make our lives a lot easier than older technology would. So this is important because of our interaction with media and the amount of time that we spend interacting with media. And it's really important, not simply because you see the different times here in this chart of the time we spend, watching TV, using a smartphone, maybe playing in a video game. But at the end of the day, what's starting to happen now is it's not only watching TV or using a smartphone or playing a video game, it's doing all of those things at once. So you want to try to understand that there's lenses that are designed for doing all of those things at once. And there's lenses that are simply not designed for that because it wasn't something that the visual needs of the masses were demanding when that lens was made. So our modern visual environment and where we work and our modern workspace is extremely dynamic now. And that means that our screens are at different angles, that our screens are below us, above us. And what I'm getting to is the idea of a lot of lenses out there is not made to meet this need. It's made on an older concept, and really it creates a lot of issues for the wearer when they're trying to use that progressive lens in the modern visual environment. We make compensations for our posture position, our neck, our head, and all of these things can lead to issues that are seen as far as what's kind of called computer visual syndrome or computer vision syndrome, but they're all different types of fatigue that a patient will experience when trying to compensate. Now, when you look at the design of a traditional classic progressive lens versus really there's only one that is designed for multiple screens, they're designed just like you see here on the screen. They're designed for you to use at a specific angle and a specific posture. And as you can see, there's a very slim possibility that you sit like that when you're using your computer. And there's an even slimmer possibility that the computer that you're using primarily is that computer. The screen doesn't sit at that angle anymore. It's a smartphone, it's a tablet. All of these things are much more dynamic and much more moving, just a lot more moving pieces than was planned for when we first started making these lenses. So some of the things that are happening to our patients and some of the things that we're complaining about as eyeglass wearers and not understanding are some of our ergonomic issues as far as our neck, our head and neck pain, but also eye strain and headaches and different visual fatigue. Now, these things are happening, one, because we're having to adjust our necks and our heads to get the lens to work properly, but two, because the lens itself isn't even designed for that distance that we're using it for. We're compensating upon compensating, and it's creating visual issues for us. So What I want to talk about is one lens that I do have, and the one lens that I do talk about specifically, and I'm going to talk about the technology in that lens and why it does what it does. So the one lens that I do have that I know is different, that we've designed differently, is called the Varilux X series. This lens has a technology that's known as Extend technology. And for the first part here, we're going to just be a little bit technical on the lens level. I'll explain a little bit more what that technology does, and then I'll help you understand how it's going to benefit you, in your day-to-day life. So the Extend technology is a technology that's designed to allow for the patient to experience a larger volume vision at arm's length. Arm's length is roughly about 2 feet. And what we try to do is we try to create a more natural feeling for everything you see at 2 feet. If you're currently a progressive lens wearer, you can understand that you would have to distinctly point your head at what you're looking at if you're not wearing this lens. But with a lot of the modern concepts that Essilor is working on and developing these products, is the most important thing to us now is designing lenses that work best within that 5 foot, 3 foot arms range, because that's where we live most of our lives. We don't live most of our lives 20 feet away. So this lens helps really create a more comfortable range of focus where you're going to see in that arm's length. The second thing it does is it creates a very specific type of lens, which no longer produces a fishbowl effect when you're looking through the bottom of the lens. So it creates wearing the lens and walking around in the lens a much more natural and just much more comfortable experience. Finally, we have a technology in there that's called Synchronize. That's there to help the wearer experience more balance in wearing the lens, and it's there as a modern solution. So as we get into it, I'll explain what that does as well. So the second thing is, what does it do? What does it do, and what are those deliverable benefits? Remember, I said this lens is really designed for that 5 foot to 3 foot range. And what that does for you is it creates an experience where you can look at multiple angles through the bottom of the lens, potentially looking at multiple screens and being able to see those screens more comfortably, more like a single vision lens, instead of having to adjust your head and neck to use the gaze angles that weren't initially designed for that anyway in another type of lens. The second thing it does is it creates that more natural feeling when walking. And finally, that last thing, it does that balancing thing. Well, this is going to become important as you start to get older and as the lens in your eye starts to age. As we talked a little bit earlier in the presentation, your eye has a natural lens in it that over time is going to atrophy and solidify and start to crust, and that's going to be called a cataract. Well, as that cataract develops, what happens is the lens itself in your eye will move slower and slower as you age. The balance in this lens helps you adapt much more easily if you're sitting on your smartphone and then you switch up to look at a TV that might be 10 feet away. If we didn't have nice smooth transitions between there, your physical lens in your eye would experience a delayed reaction time in trying to see those two things. So again, these lenses are really designed for the modern visual environment. This Varilux X lens is designed to eliminate looking for the sweet spot by creating the ability to look at multiple screens with one lens without really having to move your head around too much and search for that sweet spot. It should be comfortable, it should be clear, it feel like a single vision lens. The second thing it does is it creates that that unique shape that allows you to look down through the bottom of the lens and not feel uncomfortable stepping off of curbs, stairs, or escalators. And finally, it allows you to instantly focus with having that balance between the lens. If you're sitting on the couch and looking at a tablet or a smartphone or on Zoom with friends, and then switch back to the TV and start to experiencing that delay that reminds you you're old. So the lens itself is definitely designed to, again, meet those needs in the modern visual environment. And we want to make sure that, when we're looking at our lenses, when we're going to buy lenses, that we know that there are literally thousands of progressive lenses on the market, because at the end of the day, it is a business. However, there's not any other progressive lens that promises to allow you to look at multiple screens at once. The second thing we want to talk about when we talk about lenses is we wanted to make sure that our lenses are protecting us against blue light. Now, blue light has been kind of a hot topic for at least the past 5 years, maybe slightly longer. So to talk about it, as you can see in the slides, we'll explain a little bit about what it is, and then we'll explain a little bit about how it can affect you. The first thing is we want to understand what blue light is. And if you look to the image to the left of the screen, what you're going to see is UV, then you'll see blue light, and then you'll see other visible light spectrum. Now, technically, UV is not visible. it's radiation. It starts to become visible at a certain point, and that point that it starts to become visible is that violet light point. So what we have determined is most harmful is that most violet purple light. Now, blue light is everywhere, and blue light is predominantly, available to us when the sun is out. Now, blue light is also beneficial. So as we look into the next set of slides, we can see that blue light does two things. Blue light has a benefit of regulating our circadian rhythm. And what blue light does for us is it suppresses our natural production of melatonin. By suppressing our natural production of melatonin, blue light is going to tell us that when we see the sunlight, when we experience the sun is out, it's time to be awake and it's time to be active. On that same note, when the sun goes down, it's time to fall asleep and it's time to not be active. So usually, naturally, the sun goes down maybe 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, you would naturally fall asleep based on that circadian rhythm. Now, what's happening in our modern visual environment is we are now going to bed with cell phones and tablets and watching TV for prolonged hours before bed. And what we suspect is that blue light that is falsely telling our body to not produce the melatonin, because we're chemically telling our body that blue light is present, which would be telling our body chemically that it's time to be up and time to be awake. So there's a few things that we want to keep in mind, that there is a beneficial segment of blue light, that there's a harmful segment of blue light, and that we want to stay away from our computers, our TVs, and our cell phones at least a few hours before bedtime. Your optician is going to help you understand a little bit more what products we have to help present a solution for this, but we want to make sure that the lenses you're selecting, again, meet the needs in the modern visual environment. So the secondary issue with blue light, aside from keeping you awake too late, is that the harmful blue light, the high energy violet light, causes oxidation in the retina. And what that does is it basically kills the retina. And what we're seeing instances of age-related macular degeneration start to rise. Now, age-related macular degeneration is a natural thing, and it's, again, age-related. Unfortunately, as humans, we're deteriorating based on use, and your eyes are no different. The more you use your eyes, the more quickly they'll deteriorate. People who live in environments where they're outside, where they're potentially maybe farming or doing any of a number of things where they're going to be outside, they can cause more damage to happen to their eyes more rapidly with that additional light based on being outside. Now, again, AMD is a natural thing, but what we're seeing now is we're seeing occurrences of it rise. And what we suspect is that the additional blue light that we're putting into our bodies from using this digital media is going to start to create a larger rise in that. And the second thing that's going to create a larger rise in that is our children inducing this blue light from a very young age, and our medical system keeping us all alive much longer. So what we're going to see is a lot of people would be living longer, but we want to try to talk to them early in their life to make sure that we keep their eyes healthy longer too. We don't want people losing their eyesight for their final years. We want to make sure we're having those conversations and keeping them healthy. So one of the things that we want to make sure we talk to everybody about is the impact of harmful blue light, some potential options to protect yourselves against blue light, and especially when you're outside in the sun. So some of the things that are considered to be effects of computer vision syndrome are any of a number of things that we see here. Different pains that could be caused from sitting in uncomfortable postures, different neck pains, different head pains, different back pains, also visual fatigue, eye fatigue, and headaches. So at the end of the day, you can also see that you might be squeezing your eyes, or your eyes feel like they're on fire, or after every few minutes of looking at a screen, it just becomes uncomfortable. All of those are signs that your eyes are working too hard, and you could benefit from a lens that is either protecting you from the blue light, helping you with the focal point, because again, if you're using a regular single vision lens and you're looking at your hand, that lens was designed for 20 feet, not for 10 inches, and that's going to cause visual fatigue. So we want to make sure that we keep in mind that we want to make sure we're educating ourselves about the lenses that we're getting. We want to make sure that every time that a prescription comes out, that we understand the importance of having multiple prescriptions, especially in the modern visual environment. A full-time distance prescription is a 20-foot distance prescription. That's great if you're just driving all the time. But if you're driving and you're sitting in front of a computer, you're going to want a full-time distance prescription, and you're going to want a second prescription for your computer. Because again, those focal points are very different. 20 feet driving is great, but 20 feet when you're supposed to be looking at a computer screen 2 feet away from you isn't going to work so well. And then finally, a pair of sunglasses, because the sun is one of the most harmful sources of blue light out there. So, you know, I think we're ready for questions. Patricia's here with me, but, you know, we want to keep in mind that on the lens side of it, some of our lenses are designed for those modern visual needs. We can find those here in the optical shop. And, you know, we want to be asking the right questions.
Great, thank you both so much for that great presentation.
你常常一天到晚 computer 的话，会 cause cataract。
We have a few questions in the chat, and then
他
we'll
说你去看医生是吧？你要叫他写3种 prescription。 第一个 for distance。
trying to figure out who's speaking and if we can mute them just to make sure everybody else is uninterrupted. There we go. We have one question that says, are these advanced progressive lenses available for application directly onto the eye in cataract surgery? Is there a good reason to decline the progressive lens in cataract surgery because vision will be better with the best lenses available either now or in the future with glasses?
It's definitely not combined within cataract surgery. What we would do is we would recommend that you got a refraction following the cataract surgery, and we could then give you the lens, you know, to place in a pair of glasses over the replaced cataract lens. Now, in cataract surgery, I'm not an expert on, but we also offer telescopic lenses, which may be an option as well. So there's a way to resolve that issue with the lens surgery itself. However, if you did a standard cataract surgery, you could put the progressive lenses over it and still experience the benefits of those lenses.
Great. Another question came in. Is it better to use the dark screen mode on computers and cell phones as it pertains to blue light?
Potentially it is, but really it would only be better if you used it at night, and that's why you see them changing to a night sight mode. And what you want to pay attention to is how the color shift occurs. The color shift should occur and appear to be more yellow. If it just tints the screen, it's not really doing anything. When it appears to be more yellow, that's happening because they're removing blue light from the screen. So anytime you see something that appears to be more yellow, the more yellow, the more blue light's being removed. It's not necessarily the best solution, but it's a good way to gauge it.
Great, thank you. Another question just came in. It says, would you recommend everyone who uses computers and cell phones more than a few hours a day to get blue light blocking lenses?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, and the question is interesting to ask, right? Everyone that uses computers or cell phones more than a few hours a day, at the end of the day, we all do. We all use a computer and or a cell phone, you know, about 4 hours a day at least. So yeah, it's a good idea to look for blue light blocking lenses, and it's a good idea to keep in mind that the phone is a concern, but the sun is an even bigger concern.
Is there a difference in the blue light blocking glasses that we can buy, or are they? There is. How do you tell the difference between a good blue light blocking glass and one that's not as good?
So what you want to do is definitely consult with somebody in the optical shop, consult with your practitioner. But like I said, there's harmful blue light and there's beneficial blue light. So if you see a lens that's extremely yellow, then that means it's blocking out a lot of blue light. However, it may also be blocking out the beneficial blue light. Some of these lenses that have a slight hue or slight reflectivity are specifically formulated to block out the harmful blue light only. So it is a conversation that we want to have with the optical shop when we're getting those glasses.
Because the opticians will be able to kind of gauge your kind of activities that you do and the hobbies, and just kind of gauge how much exposure you're getting to blue light. And so that kind of helps us with our recommendations.
Right. Well, just to be realistic, I think a lot of people are buying the blue light blocking glasses online just because it's easy, and if they don't need to go get their eyes checked, for example. So if one is going to be purchasing blue light blocking glasses online, are there any things that you can look for there?
My recommendation, if you were to purchase blue light blocking glasses online, would be to only use them at night to help with that melatonin production. Because you know, at the end of the day, if they're specifically blue light blocking glasses like that, I'm thinking it's safe to assume they're going to have some type of a color to them, some type of a yellow to them, and that they're designed to block out a full spectrum of blue light, which includes the beneficial spectrum. And if you're using them at night, and it'll probably help you get to sleep more comfortably.
Great. Well, so that might have just answered this other question. Part two is, when should you use blue light blocking lenses if they are the properly prescribed ones, both day and night or just at night?
If they're properly prescribed, you can use them day and night. Like I said, some of the products that we have are formulated specifically to block out the harmful blue light. That can be worn full time and it won't have any effect on your sleep cycles, theoretically. However, the one that has the yellow color to it could have an effect on your sleep cycles. Primarily, if it has a heavy yellow to it and you wear it throughout the day, it could make you groggy when you would otherwise not be.
Interesting. Are there any more questions? I don't see any more coming through in the chat, but if you'd like to ask a question by speaking up, let us know.
I have a question. Last year when I got my glasses, I was asking my optometrician whether I need to get a blue light blocking lens, and he said you don't need it unless you are in front of the computer all the time, like you are using 10 hours in front of the computer and cell phone. At that time, I said, oh, I don't think I was in front of the computer 10 hours a day. But now if I add the cell phone, I think I am.
Right. And
So
yeah, that's the biggest part you want to keep in mind is when we talk about screen time, I mean, it includes everything. It's a TV, it's a computer, it's a cell phone, it's all of those things.
my question is really, if I get I mean, are you guys the only place I can get like prescribed a blue light? Or I mean, how should I don't know, like when I was talking to my optometrician and getting the glasses, he said he can sell me the blue light blocking, but he doesn't think I really need it. He himself used it because he was in front of the computer a lot.
Because
But
there
anyway.
is definitely a benefit to having it.
Yeah, you know, and just in this industry, there's training is important. You know, as far as opticians, knowing the right kind of questions to ask to get your lifestyle, your hobbies, take those into consideration. I mean, you really, when you're searching around for a private practice, you know, you should interview all of the different types of technicians and find somebody that is compatible, and that's knowledgeable, and that's asking you the right questions. As a patient, you shouldn't be asking your optician or your practitioner these types of questions. They should be asking you these types of questions so that they can get a better understanding of what to recommend for you.
To be fair, every single optometrist, I mean, unless they're a big box like a Walmart or a Costco or et cetera, every single optometrist is an independently owned office, and they're all going to run it a little bit differently. There are consultants out there who do what I do to help them, you know, get those products. However, it's entirely up to them what they dispense. Yes, the products are available to them, but you know, everybody makes their own business decisions based on what they do.
I guess maybe I can ask how much, let's say I'm getting a glasses from your institute. If I want the blue light blocking thing on top of what I'm getting, like should I get it for both the sunglasses and reading glasses, or just the reading glasses? And if it's like a layer to coat later, right? How much more it will cost?
Yeah. So you can't add it on after the fact. If you have healthcare insurance, either all or some of it would be covered by your vision care. And if you're doing prescription sunglasses, they will have blue light protection unless the lens itself is blue, unless it's a tinted blue lens. Your prescription sunglasses have a UV inhibitor in them, and the dark tint is also a blue light protection, again, unless the lens is tinted like a bright blue.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about a blue filter on a sunglass. It's the everyday glasses that what you would be adding that additional on.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, you would want to
right?
yeah, you would want to reach out to you know, either this optical shop or your preferred optical shop, and they could check your coverage and let you know. But there is a number of products that are covered under different eye care coverages. So there's a solid possibility either some of it or all of it would be covered by your coverage.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's a coating on top of it. I normally get a UV protection coating and the anti-scratch coating.
Yep.
I understand. Yeah.
Usually
Okay.
the blue block is part of an anti-reflective coating. There's some combinations of anti-reflective with the blue block.
And the other thing, I guess, if I can just give you one product that you would want to look at, if you want to make sure all of your glasses have transitions lenses in them, all transitions lenses are blue light lenses. So when a transition lens appears to be clear, it's a 20% blue filter against harmful blue light. And when a transitions lens is fully activated and it looks like a sunglass, it's a 95% blue blocker. So that's one thing you can always ask for. And you know, especially with all of our products now, they're always going to have that blue light. So if it's a transitions brand lens, it'll be at least 20% when it looks clear, and it'll be at least 85 to 95% when it looks dark.
Actually, I did get my transition lens from your office 2 years ago, which become dark when they go to the sun. It become lighter when they go inside. Are you telling me it's already have the blue light?
Yes, they do.
Blocking?
We've been putting them in there for at least the past 4 years.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for either Patricia or Marcial? No.
I'm sorry. Maybe you
Where
know
is your
ask more
store?
question. I have one more question. Is the reason I didn't get the blue light blocking on my reading computer glasses is I think my doctor said it might make it too dark or something. It's like if you want 100% blue light blocking, it will make your glass darker or something. That's what he said. Is that true?
That is correct. Yeah. The higher the amount of blue light blocking the lenses have, the denser the color will be. It will either be a dark gray, a dark brown, or a yellow. But the higher, again, the when we look at the products that we offer specifically, like I said, that transition lens, when it looks clear, it's 20% of the most harmful. When it's dark, it's now 85%. So if he were to give you a dark yellow lens, then it would be 85%. If he were to give you a dark gray lens, it would be similar. So yes, the darker the lens, the more it can block. However, you know, the reason we produce these lenses to block out the 20%, we're targeting the most harmful, and we want to make sure the lenses still look cosmetically appealing.
Would that be too dark for use inside if I want to block the blue light?
It would be
if
extremely yellow. You could get a lens and it would be extremely yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could use it inside, but it would alter your color perception.
Yeah. And you know, there's different things that at the optical shop that we offer as well. If you don't want to have a lens that's constant in color, as far as that yellow hinge to it, there's what we call chemistry clips, which we can actually put onto your glasses that when you're sitting at the computer, it's just a clip that actually goes into on your lens that one, it changes your, gives you that computer prescription, but it also gives you that percentage of blue light block.
I remember a couple last year I was at your talk, not your talk, but the talk offered by this office. Someone said for the young kids who are born today, they suggest them wear sunglasses in front of the computer all the time to protect them because they will be using computer for their whole life. Is that what you were thinking?
It's extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially it could work, but it's a little too far.
Yeah, I always suggest sunglasses outside for children because at a young age, because again, we don't really think about these preventative actions until we're later in life. And by that time, you've already developed some type of symptom of a cataract, a pterygium, anything like that. So I always recommend sunglasses. And, be careful with the type of sunglasses that you're getting for children. You want something that's a polycarbonate that has a UV filter embedded in the material itself, versus going to the store and getting a really cheap pair of sunglasses for your child that may not have that UV protection. It could be just a plastic lens with a tint, and over time tint fades. The UV sometimes is just applied at like a tint, and that over time can fade out. And so then you're having a dark lens with the pupils being open wide. allowing more UV in and is doing more harm than good. So make sure that if you're getting glasses for children, that you're, polycarbonate is the best, because it's going to give you that extra one, safety, and then that extra UV filtering to it. But yeah, I mean, with blue light, you can, there's very different variations. Everybody's more than welcome to come into optical shop. All of my opticians are versed in knowing the recommendations and the different products that we have to offer. You don't have to buy anything. If you just need a counseling, we are definitely there for you.
Where's
Do I
your
need to make
store?
appointment? Do I
Where's
need
your
to make-
store?
We are in the Gavin Herbert Eye Institute.
Oh, right there in
Yeah,
Irvine.
we're on the first floor. Definitely, we're like right in the atrium before you get into the clinic area.
We can just walk in and look.
Yeah, you can. With the COVID protocols, though, we do have you check in, and then we kind of filter how many people come in at once. But yeah, you definitely can come in
Without appointment.
without an appointment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, if there are no further questions, we will look forward to seeing you at future community lectures. I've posted the phone number for the optical shop on the group chat. If you are looking at it, great. If not, it's 949-824-7690. Our website hosts all the other information about the other community lectures, as well as information about the optical shop, and has videos from previously recorded community lectures. So you can check there and see if there's any other topics you're interested in. The address is 850 Health Sciences Road. And as Patricia said, it's best to call just to make sure that the optical shop isn't too busy for COVID purposes. So thank you all. Thank you, Patricia and Marcial, for a great lecture. And we will look forward to seeing you all at upcoming lectures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.